Welcome to Santa Clarita Weekly, where we cover all things local in Santa Clarita Valley every Saturday morning at 9 on KQRU 107.9. Join hosts Tim Haddock and Sage Rafferty as they uncover the latest news, events, sports highlights, and more, keeping you connected and engaged with what matters most in our hometown.
Welcome back for another edition of Santa Clarita Weekly with Tim Haddock and Sage Rafferty. I'm Sage. He's Tim. You can listen to us on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM on Thursday afternoons at 5:30 and on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock. We're also on YouTube, Instagram. You can find us online at santaclaritastar.com. So is the GOP damaging public education to hurt Democrats politically? We will look at that question. And in sports, the Canyon High track and field team will be well represented at the CIF State meet in Clovis. And the West Ranch baseball and softball teams are in the championship games of the CIF Southern Section playoffs. The Dodgers won the first game against the Mets in New York, then lost the next two games, and the Dodgers were lucky to win the first one. And we do have some interviews with local athletes that Tim got, so this is going to be a great show. But first, let's start out with fear and learning, the GOP's multi-front war in public education. And the question is there a deliberate Republican plan amplified by actions from the Trump administration and blueprints like Project 2025 to fundamentally reshape American education for political dominance? And today we explore the multi-front strategy targeting higher education, K-12 schools, and teachers' unions.
Let's dive into a deeply contentious issue, a concerted effort by the Republican Party with significant actions taken during the Trump administration and outlined in plans like Project 2025 to fundamentally reshape American education for political ends. This isn't just about policy tweaks. It's about a multi-front strategy that could redefine our schools and universities. Let's be clear, the Republican Party has identified education as a key battleground. Why? A major factor is the shifting political alignment of voters. College graduates increasingly vote for Democrats, while those without a four-year degree have become a core part of the Republican base. Remember when Donald Trump said, "I love the poorly educated" in 2016?
We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
This demographic reality seems to be a powerful motivator for the GOP's increasingly critical stance on higher education and its traditional structures. According to 2024 exit polls, about 57% of college-educated voters prefer Democrats over Republicans. That's a whopping 14-point advantage for Democrats. The strategy to address this involves several key targets. First up, higher education. The Trump administration made moves that signaled a desire to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education, a long-held conservative goal. The federal judge even blocked one attempt to slash department staff by nearly half, calling it an unlawful attempt to neuter a federal agency. But beyond structural changes, there's a war on what's taught. Project 2025, spearheaded by the Heritage Foundation as a playbook for a second Trump term, calls for cutting federal funding to schools allegedly teaching critical race theory, a term now often used as a catch-all for any discussion of race and history from non-white perspectives, and what it labels radical gender ideology. In the first couple months of 2025, shortly after taking office, President Trump signed executive orders banning federal spending on diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI programs. One order defined sex as an immutable biological classification, directly impacting how universities address gender identity. Another aimed to end DEI programs for all government contractors and discourage corporations and private institutions from implementing DEI in the workplace. The message was clear: use federal funding to force universities and companies into ideological alignment. And these threats have had real consequences. Columbia University, for example, faced a $400 million cut in federal funding, allegedly over its handling of pro-Palestine protests. To restore funding, Columbia reportedly agreed to significant overhauls, including government minders to police speech and opinions in its Middle Eastern Studies program. Harvard University found itself in the crosshairs with the Trump administration attempting to revoke its certification to enroll foreign students, a move Harvard called retaliatory for its DEI policies. These actions not only chill academic freedom, but can make higher education less accessible and financially strained. Teachers' unions are another major target for the GOP. Why? They are formidable political allies and financial engines for the Democratic Party. From 1990 to 2024, teachers' unions directed approximately $41 million to Democratic U.S. House candidates, compared to just $1.6 million for Republicans. In the 2023 and 2024 cycle alone, they contributed roughly $47 million, overwhelmingly to Democrats and liberal groups. State-level efforts by Republicans illustrate this. In Florida, a law now requires public sector unions, notably targeting teachers' unions, to maintain at least 60% membership to avoid decertification. Unions representing police and firefighters, who often lean Republican, are exempt. Decertification means losing the ability to collectively bargain. The goal seems to be to diminish a key source of funding and organizational support for their political adversaries. For K-12 education, the Republican vision, heavily influenced by plans like Project 2025, involves a significant rollback of federal influence. The Trump administration's stated goal was to close the Department of Education. Project 2025 details plans to reduce it to a mere statistics gathering agency, eliminating programs like Head Start, which serves over 800,000 low-income children, and Title I, providing $18.4 billion to high-poverty schools. It also advocates for rescinding civil rights protections for LGBTQ+ students and promoting universal private school choice. By diverting funding choices to the states, state governments would have the option to divert critical funding away from low-income minority communities to wealthier white-majority school districts. This agenda is amplified by the so-called parental rights movement, with groups like Moms for Liberty at the forefront.
Fighting for attend school. This happens when school boards chase selfish goals that are not in the best interest of the students. All of you have a weak record on improving educational standards. Instead, your strengths seem to be fighting for collective bargaining, staying home, fighting for masks, and now fighting against parents. I stand here on behalf of hundreds of parents in our county because I am appalled by what I see. Because someone needs to have the courage to speak truth to power and demand accountability for your failure to ensure that our kids are educated and not programmed.
Founded in 2021, M4L has campaigned against what it calls woke indoctrination, promoted book bans, and attacked LGBTQ+ rights. M4L leadership has called teachers' unions terrorist organizations and has close ties to prominent Republicans like Governor Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. Moms for Liberty has also been tied to white nationalist groups like the Proud Boys and the Patriot Front. A Moms for Liberty Telegram group has been a hub for Holocaust denial, white supremacist propaganda, and hate against the LGBTQ+ community. Once a year, Moms for Liberty members from across the country participate in a whites-only Christmas toy drive, which is not officially sanctioned by M4L, but the very first press release in 2023 from the newly formed Los Angeles County Moms for Liberty denied an affinity for Adolf Hitler, which referenced a prior incident where the organization promoted one of his quotes. The press release said that they officially denounce Hitler and every word he ever spoke. They've become influential in local school board elections. The Los Angeles County Moms for Liberty chair, Karen Frost, supported right-wing school board candidates in 2024, which resulted in what Frost calls a supermajority on the William S. Hart High School District Board right here in Santa Clarita Valley.
We have a supermajority on our high school district. It's a 4-to-1 supermajority of conservatives. And I have a very close working relationship with our trustees there. I was just at a meeting earlier, campaigned with them, worked with them. I had a meeting yesterday with one of the other trustees. So they really lean into us as a support and advocacy group for them. So
the legal front is also active. The attempt to publicly fund St. Isidore of Seville Catholic Virtual Charter School in Oklahoma tested church-state separation, leading to a 4-4 Supreme Court tie on May 22nd, 2025, affirming a state ruling against it, but setting no national precedent. and policy shifts under Trump had immediate impacts. Just months after he rescinded a policy designating schools as sensitive locations, DHS agents attempted to enter 2 LAUSD elementary schools on April 7, 2025, to access students they claimed were undocumented, sending fear through immigrant communities. So when you connect these dots, the rhetoric against wokeness, the targeting of specific academic disciplines and DEI, the push to weaken teachers' unions, the efforts to dismantle federal education oversight, and the actions of the Trump administration and proposals like Project 2025, it paints a picture of a coherent, multifaceted Republican strategy. This isn't just about isolated policy disputes. It appears to be a calculated effort to use education as a tool to weaken Democratic Party support structures and reshape American society according to conservative and sometimes white Christian nationalist priorities. The battle over education is clearly a critical front in a larger contest for political power and cultural definition in America. The implications for the quality and equity of education and for democratic discourse itself are profound. When seeing headlines of what the Trump administration or Republicans are doing to damage education, or seeing the efforts from right-wing organizations like Moms for Liberty, it's important to realize that this isn't just a battle over funding or ideology. There's also a much more cynical political strategy. It's an attempt by the Republican Party and the right to prevent future Democratic voters and damage the supporting structure of the Democratic Party. In this chilling calculus, the intellectual future of our children and the vibrancy of our democracy are deemed expendable for partisan gain.
So Trump is targeting Apple with new tariffs, but California is not taking it lying down. So let's take a look at Donald Trump's new tariffs targeting Apple and other smartphone makers and what California is doing to fight back.
American company in that way.
It would be more. It would be also Samsung and anybody that makes that product. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair. So anybody that makes that product, and that'll start on, I guess, the end of June. It'll come out. I think we have that appropriately done by the end of June. So
it's May 2025. The global economy holds its breath. In California, the state is gearing up for a legal battle with the White House. Attorney General Rob Bonta vows to fight new federal tariffs, threatening to hike the price of an iPhone by 25%. It's the latest tremor from a policy earthquake. America's tumultuous affair with tariffs under Donald J. Trump. It began as America First, a storm of tariffs. Justifications shifted like sand. National security for steel, unfair practices by China, a demand for reciprocal duties, even using emergency powers for fentanyl or border security to tax global goods. The result? Massive market volatility, businesses caught in the crossfire. Trump's justification for tariffs often circled back to trade deficits, and the White House put out blatantly false information about the tariffs other countries are charging the U.S. It's not entirely clear that Trump understands what a trade deficit is, yet most economists see a more complex picture, tied to national savings and investment, not easily fixed by tariffs. But who truly pays the price? While Trump's claim is that foreign countries will eat the costs, study after study confirms a different reality. U.S. importers, businesses, and ultimately American consumers bear the brunt. The Yale Budget Lab projected a single year's tariffs could effectively cost households thousands, adding to inflation. Nowhere has the impact been sharper than in California. The nation's economic engine, a global trade hub, is starting to sputter. The Port of Los Angeles saw cargo plummet by up to 25% during tariff threats. Agriculture faces a double whammy: retaliatory tariffs, slashing exports, and rising costs for essential supplies. The tech sector, relying on global supply chains, has been forced to pay billions in duties. Apple, a Californian icon, is now a prime target. The threat: major tariffs unless iPhone production moves to the U.S. A move analysts warned could send prices soaring by hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Suppliers are feeling the chill, and consumers are facing uncertainty. California isn't taking it lying down. Governor Newsom and Attorney General Bonta have launched legal challenges, questioning the president's very authority to impose such sweeping duties. Public reaction sharply divided along partisan lines. Critics like New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez alleged the chaotic tariff shuffle was ripe for market manipulation.
About market manipulation on the back of Donald Trump's
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have many questions. I'm very curious as to some of the discussions that were happening at the NRCC dinner, the Trump speech the night before this tariff announcement. I'm very interested in the May 15th disclosure deadline for members of Congress and what members of Congress, Republican or Democrat, were trading the day before and the morning of the tariff announcement. And I'm very interested in tracking some of the communications and who was communicating with whom in the 48 hours preceding.
What should the next step be, do you think?
Pardon?
What should the next step be, do you think?
Well, there are a couple of next steps. The most obvious and clear next step, I believe, is moving to the floor the insider trading ban for members of Congress. Now, of course, that is challenging to do when many of the people who would be subject to that.
The legacy on Trump's tariffs so far? Significant economic disruption, a fundamentally altered U.S. trade posture, and higher prices for Americans. As threats of new tariffs persist in this 2025 landscape, the questions over cost, fairness, and presidential power remain more urgent than ever.
You are listening to KQRU 107.9 FM in Santa Clarita. You can listen to Santa Clarita Weekly on Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. and on Saturday mornings at 9 and on YouTube, Instagram, or wherever you listen to podcasts. So, Tim, tell us about local sports. And I know you have some exciting interviews, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, so yes, it's coming to the end of the high school track and field season. The CIF Southern Section had its Masters meet at Moore Park High School, and that's the meet where the athletes, the runners, the jumpers, everybody, they can qualify for the state meet. It's usually the top 6 qualifiers from the Masters meet go on to the CIF State meet, but this year they expanded that rule so that they had actual standard time, standard distances that the athletes could reach to make it to the state finals. So there's going to be a lot more athletes at the state finals this year than in previous years. So it's exciting for a lot of athletes to get to go to the state meet for the first time. But let's start with Canyon High School. Canyon High School did extremely well at the Masters meet, and they've been doing well in the track and field meets in the postseason here. Canyon is sending 2 relay teams and 4 runners to the CIF State track and field meet. The Canyon High track and field team sending 2 relays and 3 girls in the 400 to the CIF State meet in Clovis. The Canyon girls 4x100 and 4x400 relay teams qualified for the CIF State meet. The 4x100 relay team is Emery Wright, Aliyah Graves Hoganes, Lyric Scott, and Lanai Gant. They finished in 4th place at the Masters meet to qualify for the state meet. The team from Long Beach Poly won the 4x100 relay in 45.94 seconds. Canyon finished in 47.30 seconds. Canyon's 4x400 relay team also qualified for the state meet, finishing in 3rd place at the Masters meet. Let me get this right. Kazia Webster, Scott, Graves, Hoganes, and Gant are on the 4x400 relay team. Wilson Long Beach won the 4x400 relay at the Masters meet in 3 minutes 34.71 seconds. Canyon finished in 3 minutes 45.91 seconds. So that kind of gives you an idea of where Canyon is in the mix for both of those relays. They're top 5, definitely top 5. We'll see if they can keep that top 5 status when they get to the state meet. Gant, Graves, Hoganes, and Scott also qualified individually in the 400. Gant was 6th in the 400 in the Masters meet in 55.22 seconds. Graves Hoganes was 8th in 55.79 seconds, and Scott was 10th, 5.84 seconds. So all of them in that 55-second range. Very, very impressive. Three girls from the same team qualify in one event. Madison Mesby from St. Mary's Academy won the 400 at the Masters meet in 53.53 seconds. Gant talked about the results of the Masters meet and how she is preparing for the CIF State meet.
The race today for me was okay. I didn't execute it how I wanted to, given I'm dealing with some things right now. So I went in today just confident, just trying to get to the next stage for the first time. But Obviously, I could have done a little better, but at least I made it. I'm just very appreciative that I made it. And that's it.
Okay, so next week is the CIF State Finals. This disqualified you into that race. How are you going to prepare for that race, and what do you expect to be different next week?
Next week, I know it'll be way more challenging, given that we're going to have to run twice, Friday, Saturday. And I'm just going to prepare by, keeping myself hydrated, executing my times at practice, and just making sure I stay healthy, just making sure my mindset is A1. Okay, and then the other thing, you qualified in the 4x100 relay today as well. How did that race go, and did that was the result of that race what you expected to? The 4x1 went okay. We did qualify to state, but it didn't go as we expected it because we're dealing with some things. We're dealing with some things from my teammates, so we didn't execute it as we were supposed to. But we're appreciative that we got here and we were still able to get a spot in state. And we're just gonna do better next week. It's the mindset. We're gonna do better.
And I also talked to Graves Hogains. She commented on her races at the Masters meet and what she expects at the CIF State meet.
It feels great to know that me and my team are still continuing to progress. And I'm just very happy overall we're making it. We're fourth in state right now. Hopefully, if we can't finish higher, we will. And I just feel great about it.
Okay. And about your race today, did everything go the way you expected? Did you want to change anything about how you went in that race?
I wish I would change how aggressive I came into the race. I came in, not feeling my best. My mental wasn't all the way there, but I'm just happy I get to advance, hopefully improve in the future state meet.
Okay, and then Canyon's not done here either. Canyon had one male athlete qualify for state, and he's going in two events. Canyon's Jordan Gamage qualified for the CIF State meet in the 110-meter hurdles and the 300-meter hurdles. He was 7th in the 110-meter hurdles in 14.27 seconds at the Masters meet, and he was 8th in the 300-meter hurdles in 38.20 seconds. One athlete from Golden Valley High qualified for the CIF State meet. Kiera Donovan qualified for the state meet in the discus. She was 9th at the Masters meet. And Tamia Creer from West Ranch qualified for the state meet in the girls 200. She was 8th in the Masters meet in 24.03 seconds. Keeleen Wright from Chaparral High won the girls 200 in 23.21 seconds at the Masters meet. This was a little bit of a heartbreaker of a story, though. Tyler Halverson from West Ranch, he narrowly missed qualifying for the state meet in the boys 800. He was second in his heat race in 1 minute 53.74 seconds and had the 9th fastest time at the Masters meet, while in Obando from Wilson Long Beach won the boys 800 in 1 minute 51.40 seconds, and Halverson missed the qualifying mark for the state meet by 1/10 of a second. So he talked about competing in the Masters meet and finishing a successful track season.
To mostly like win, but I wanted to qual for state. I got 153.74. Qualifying time was 153.64. I missed it by 1/10 of a second. Pretty disappointing, but happy to be out here. My start time of the year was 155, so I made a pretty big jump, 2 seconds, and I just want to qual for state. Didn't go as expected, but I still hit a great PR and an amazing time, so I'm happy about that.
Okay, so tell me about making it to this part of the season. Not many people get to race in the Masters meet. How big a deal was it for you to get this far, and are you happy with the way your season went?
Absolutely. I'm really happy with the way my season went. Coming off last year, at the start of the year, I got super sick, so I didn't run that great of a time, and I came out, ran a 153 here. I'm happy to be here just because not that much of my team has come here before, so I'm happy to put my West Ranch on the map and make a name for myself.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the CIF Southern Section baseball playoffs. West Ranch baseball and softball teams are in the CIF Southern Section championship games. The West Ranch baseball team plays Mater Dei in the championship game of the CIF Southern Section Division II playoffs. West Ranch beat Sultana 10-0 in the quarterfinals, and then beat Etiwanda 8-7 in extra innings in the semifinals. Manning pitched a no-hitter against Sultana, striking out 8 and walking 2 batters. West Ranch scored 4 runs in the first inning to take a comfortable lead in the game. Mikey Murr and Nolan Stoll each hit solo home runs and each scored 2 runs. Brian O went 2 for 3 with the double, scored 2 runs against Sultana. It was a little closer in the semifinal game against Etiwanda. The score was tied 5-5 after 7 innings. Etiwanda scored 2 runs in the top of the 8th inning to take a 7-5 lead, but West Ranch responded by scoring 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th inning to win the game. Ty Diaz went 3 for 3, drove in 2 runs and scored a run. Omar Get this right. Omar Gutierrez went 1 for 4 with a double and drove in 2 runs. Landon Hu was 2 for 4, drove in a run and scored a run. In other baseball playoff action, the Cass State baseball team lost 4-1 to Temecula Valley in the quarterfinals of the Division III playoffs. The Trinity Classical Academy baseball team lost 11-1 to Dos Pueblos in the quarterfinals of the Division IV playoffs. And the Saugus baseball team lost 1-0 to Ganesha in the quarterfinals of the Division IV playoffs. Ganesha scored a run with 1 out in the bottom of the 7th inning to win the game. Caleb Haig pitched 6 in the 3rd innings, gave up 4 hits. He struck out 5 and walked 3. So he pitched a good game, just kind of ran out of steam at the end of the game there. Now on to softball, the softball playoffs, West Ranch. The West Ranch softball team is joining the baseball team in the championship game of the CIF Southern Section playoffs. West Ranch softball team plays St. Bonaventure for the CIF Southern Section Division V championship. West Ranch beat La Cañada 7-4 in the quarterfinals and beat Cerritos 9-7 in the semifinals to reach the championship game. So West Ranch scored 4 runs in the 3rd inning to take a 6-0 lead against La Cañada. Madison Meister went 3 for 4 with a double, scored 2 runs, and drove in a run. A freshman, Gretchen Roan, pitched a complete game, giving up 4 runs on 12 hits, and went 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs. In the game against Cerritos, West Ranch scored 4 runs in the 3rd inning to take a 5-2 lead and took a 9-2 lead into the 7th inning. But Cerritos rallied in the 7th inning, scoring 5 runs, and cut the lead to 2 runs. Meister had another big game, going 2 for 4 and drove in 2 runs. Isabella Swanson went 3 for 4 and drove in 2 runs. I'm going to hand it off to Sage to talk about the Dodgers.
Thank you, Tim. That was great, a great update with some great interviews there. But let's talk about the Dodgers. So the Dodgers won the first game in New York against the Mets, but lost the next 2. So the Dodgers were lucky to win 1 game. Teoscar Hernandez drove in the winning run in the 13th inning with a 7-5 win for the Dodgers. The Mets scored 3 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning to tie the score 5-5. Score stayed tied until the 13th inning. Hernandez drove in the go-ahead run to make it 6-5 and scored on a sacrifice fly to give the Dodgers an insurance run. But the Dodgers' fortune shifted in the next 2 games. The Dodgers lost the second game 5-2 and the third 3-1 in the Sunday night game. It was a rough end to an otherwise productive week. The Dodgers won 2 of 3 games against the Arizona Diamondbacks at Dodger Stadium to start the week. The Diamondbacks won the first game 9-5, but the Dodgers won the second game 4-3 and the third game 3-1. The Dodgers head to Cleveland for a series against the Guardians before coming home for a series against the New York Yankees. So, Tim, I know you love baseball. You've been following baseball, but I have to ask you, the Mets were a good mid-season test for the Dodgers. Is that correct?
Yeah. The Dodgers were really tested in New York. It's a tough road game. It's a tough team. The Mets are a good team. You know, the Dodgers and Mets were in the playoffs against each other last year, and that was a tough series for the Dodgers and the Mets. The Mets always play the Dodgers tough, but this series, it was a good mid-season test for the Dodgers to see kind of where they stand against some of the better teams in the league.
All right, that's great insights as always, Tim. But I think that's it for this week. But tune in next week for more discussions about the news from Santa Clarita. You can listen to us on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM at 5:30 on Thursday evenings and at 9 on Saturday mornings. You can also watch us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and listen to us on SantaClaritaStar.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Santa Clarita Weekly. You can watch the show on Santa Clarita Star's YouTube channel and Facebook page, as well as listen in on the radio at KQRU 107.9. Visit SantaClaritaStar.com for more content and tune in right here to KQRU 107.9. A new voice for Santa Clarita.